And welcome to ANC Decides, the show that gives you up-to-the-minute news and commentary building up to the ANC's elective conference. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalan. Let's firstly start off with some ANC election race-related headlines. COSATU admits that relations among tripartite alliance partners are strained, but there's still room for talks to mend the strained relations. ANC presidential candidate Matthews Posa says the SACP should stop threatening to leave the tripartite alliance, as it often does when relations are strained. And Posa sparks debate about his comments on radical economic transformation. Presidential candidate says RET is just a cover-up for looting. ANC presidential candidate Matthews Posa has urged the SACP to stop threatening to leave the tripartite alliance and work within the structures. Posa says the SACP has always made threats to walk away but never did. He cites examples like when President Jacob Zuma reshuffled cabinet and removed Pravin Gordhan as finance minister. The SACP then said it would leave the alliance, but it never did. This raises questions about the SACP's prospects as a party independent of the ANC and the broader alliance.
The problem with SACP, and I respect the comment, they like threatening and doing nothing. They threatened to step down if Pravin is removed. They didn't go. They got a new explanation, which it's very plausible. That's all I can say. But it's not impressive in my view. But then they've been making the same threat before many elections. They never went anywhere. I don't think they should go anywhere. They should stay in and fight in. I think the Communist Party is very important. COSATU is very, very important for the future.
Remark made by Dr. Matthew Posa on the importance of the SACP staying within the alliance, and its historic and strategic role, and that of COSATU and all alliance partners, is a very important point. The unfortunate part is where he make really a statement that is far from the truth and it's completely wrong. I don't think he can justify or provide correct information to back up the claim or the statement he's making that the SACP more often threaten to walk away from the alliance. I think that statement is unfounded, but we, however, as the SACP, respect people who hold views against us. It is their democratic right to do so. People are entitled to hold views about the SACP, but let me clarify that we dismiss such assertions really with the contempt it deserves, because at no point in history has the SACP ever made such a threat. The fact that the SACP has raised certain principled matters, very strong, very robust, does not suggest that when we do so, we actually throw our toys around. So I think it's very regrettable that Dr. Matthew Posa reduces the SACP's principled position to throwing toys around. I think that is incorrect.
So yesterday, amongst a number of revelations in the interview with Matthews Posa, he revealed that his campaign for presidency is shaping up quite well in his home province of Mpumalanga, although it's somewhat underground, as he puts it. Well, our reporter Lemogang Foke and political analyst Mbuso Tumbachi join us live from there. Lemo, a warm welcome to you. We understand that at least a dozen branches were said to meet with the presidential hopeful. Has that meeting taken place, or I see people gathered behind you? What is the mood like?
A very good afternoon to you, Mfundo. Thank you once again. Indeed, you are correct in saying that Matthews Posa today will be meeting with about 40 branches, as we have been told, as part of a strategic meeting to launch and position his Siya Posa campaign in his home province, Mpumalanga. And as you can see behind me, I have all these delegates from the different branches that are here today. And we're going to talk to them just a little bit to find out about the meeting today and their support for Matthews Phosa. Ntate Roni, thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's talk about the branches that are represented here today. Why do you feel that Matthews Phosa is the one?
Thank you very much for having me. We felt that it would be great if Phosa would be a president. He don't have any dent, and at the present moment, when we're talking about GDP, we felt that it would be great to make use of people like Phosa because of he has credibility and he's accountable, and at the same time, he's an integrity man.
Let's talk about the branches right now that are in support of Matthews Phosa. We understand that today only he's meeting with about 40 of these branches, but just give us the overall numbers of the people that are with the Siya Phosa campaign.
In actual fact, we are regarding ourselves according to, it's plus minus 70% of the province are supporting the candidate president, Comrade Matthews Phosa. The reason it's being that when we look back what Matthew did, he did a lot of things. Even currently, you can see that he is a leader. And we felt that when it comes to deepening the accountability of the ANC credibility, the only person whom we felt can deliver us is Matthew.
And also something very interesting which he has revealed to ANC in that very exclusive interview he had yesterday is that this campaign in Mpumalanga will be somehow underground. Just talk to us about those details and why. What is it motivated by?
I can say maybe taking one act or a proverb which is from Nigeria. They are saying knowledge without wisdom, it's just like when you pour water in a sand. In other words, I mean, currently, when we look at the province, there's an autocratic government. People cannot debate issues. In most cases, when you came forward with something, people, they will hate you. There's a lot of hatred. And currently there's a new baby born, or maybe I can say somebody is being pregnant, but being not known who impregnated that particular person. And you won't even know the surname of that particular child. The reason it's being that, the current chairperson is talking about a new baby, which is Unity. And that baby, he born 3 months ago. Then you see, you can feel that this person, he has got a motive behind. He has got some interest. And currently they've instructed us that we need not to nominate. We must just only nominate the additional members, not the official. What was the motive behind? It's because of the man has got interest.
Well, thank you very much. That was the people that are here in attendance, obviously, of that meeting with Matthews Phosa himself. But also, Mfundo, I want to engage our analyst here today just on some few issues that we, want to get out of the way. I have with me Mbuso Tumbati from Nombuso Communications Group. Mbuso, thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about the chances that Dr. Matthews Phosa has.
Well, looking at numbers, politics in the ANC is about numbers. For now, Mr. Phosa doesn't have much support except for the branches they've mentioned. However, anything can happen in politics. You know the dynamic nature of politics. It's about galvanizing support. It's about deepening your campaign. It's about getting the necessary support you can get. They have started. Let's give them a benefit of the doubt. But as far as I'm concerned, for now, there's really nothing we can write home about.
And also, Mbuso, his take is that, he's very confident about the numbers in his province. But when you look at the way he's positioning his campaign, what are your views on that?
Well, anyone is allowed to campaign, Phosa included. He can, if seniority is anything to go by, Mr. Phosa is the most senior of all the people who are frontrunners of this presidential campaign of the ANC. But unfortunately, that's not how the ANC work. The only chances Mr. Phosa can get of leading the ANC is through interventions of the elders, the veterans of the ANC. Well, the issue is, will they listen to the veterans or the elders? Luckily, no, unfortunately. So they would need numbers. Mr. Phosa need to work very hard. His people on the ground must continue working, galvanizing support to enable him to ascend to this position.
Well, thank you very much. I'm just going to have to keep it on hold for now and come back to you a little bit later. Mfundo, it's back to you for now.
No, thank you very much, Lemu. A very interesting picture that we're now seeing in Mpumalanga, where we thought it was a consolidated province and perhaps they're going to speak with one voice. And we've heard the unity candidate being punted around. But hey, it's an interesting picture. We'll certainly speak to our political analysts. But on to another story. Earlier today, my colleague Sindisiwe Twala spoke to COSATU President Dumo Dlamini on the state of the alliance ahead of the elective conference. Let's take a look at that interview.
We speak to Dumo Dlamini, COSATU President, about the state of the alliance going into the National Elective Conference of the African National Congress. Welcome to ANC Decides.
Thank you very much and thanks for having us.
Talking about the state of the alliance, looking at it from an outside perspective and looking at it from a COSATU, is the alliance still intact?
Look, the alliance remains. However, no one can dispute the fact that building up to the December conference of the African National Congress, things are very, very difficult. There's high levels of tensions, both within the African National Congress, but also with the alliance partners. You have situations where we are supposed to be having meetings of the alliance. For a while now, we are not able to have those.
So, since you've spoken about all these tensions and you've exhausting internal avenues, but continuing to try and speak to the ANC, SACP has been very frank, saying that they're threatening to pull out of the alliance partnership, that if Pravin Gordhan is not if Pravin Gordhan is removed, they're leaving the partnership. They did not leave. SACP already also said that if the president doesn't step down, this is putting tension on the alliance partnership. Will COSATU back SACP should they decide to go it alone?
COSATU is driven by a Congress mandate. And the Congress mandate of the Federation is that we're supporting the alliance as led by the ANC. We're putting issues around the reconfiguration of the alliance, But once the SACP has taken a decision to contest elections, whilst COSATU has a Congress decision to support the ANC in the general elections, it requires that there should be a talk. We have not yet had an opportunity to then engage and hear the party. So we are in no position to say we are abandoning the Congress decision, because it is only the Congress of COSATU, and there is one coming in 2018 that can change its own decision.
All right, and then going back to the march that COSATU, nationwide march, that had a lot of people coming out in numbers, a lot of members. What exactly was the intention for that particular march?
Yes, thanks very much. And we continue to thank and appreciate those toiling workers of South Africa and those unemployed people who came up in numbers to support the marches on the 27th of September. It was a very, very important activity of the Federation. We were raising the issues against state capture and supporting the call for the institution of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry by the President of the Republic, which in our view must go deeper, so that we nip this to the bud, any form of capture by the private sector, by people within the state. We have to investigate that. It was a march against corruption, because we believe that if we don't and we didn't raise our voices, which we'll continue to do, the ripple effect of that is that jobs get lost, people don't get the services that they want, and a lot of things do not go right in the Republic. So it was a very, very important activity of the Federation, and we're happy that we were able to raise those issues. I know that people were giving it other labels, like it's a political campaign for Comrade Cyril. from where I was, and I was actually in KZN, it was clear that that march was meant for the issues that have been raised against corporate capture or state capture, against corruption, and in fight against labor brokers, unemployment, and a range of these other ills workers are experiencing daily.
All right, and then suggestions have also come out that you were coerced into the strike, that you were not for this particular march because of your relations with the president. Is it so?
I've dismissed that with the contempt it deserves. You know, President Zuma is the president of the African National Congress and the state president. I'm president of COSATU, and there is a working relationship that exists there. Assume even before the calls for Zuma to step down, there's been that working relationship, which has now been tempered because it's no more happening, because COSATU has taken the position they've taken. It's been a lie that has been peddled, and I'm sure by now everyone knows that there would have been people cooking this thing somewhere for their own intents and purposes, and who have effectively been able to dispel the thing.
So come December, when he's no more the president of the ANC but is still the president of the country, you're still going to put it on the table that he should stop being president of the country?
Until COSATU reviews its own decision, or until the ANC or there is a demonstration that the situation is different.
What's your take on the NEC taking collective responsibilities for the issues in the organization?
Look, that area has been criticized. Remember, in my other life, I sit in that NEC of the ANC. And I remember very well when the ANC NEC took that decision. And there was a clear qualification on how they reached that, because matters of Inkandla, matters of the public protector processes were discussed in that NEC, and on each occasion the NEC would reach a decision. So when at that NEC of the ANC a decision was taken that there is a collective responsibility, that became the position, and it bound me as a member of that NEC, because I'm part of that. I'm not going to come up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not how one is brought. The issue here, my sister, is that where I stand, what I do as an individual does have an implication on the collective. So there is a responsibility on the collective also on what I do. I can't have a situation here at COSATU that say, no, the president of COSATU is on his own on this one, and therefore the collective was not there, if the collective did not raise an issue about the conduct of an individual. So where we sit now at the moment is that things have gone wrong. And I believe that the president has to take a share of his responsibility as a leader on things that have not gone right there.
Thank you so much.
I thank you.
That was the president of COSATU telling us about the relevance of the alliance partnership heading into the National Elective Conference.
Now you can catch the full Stumut Dlamini interview at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. So now today in studio we're joined by political analyst Kim Hela. Kim, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. Now Kim, just from that excerpt of that interview with Stumut Dlamini, what do you make of the alliance, the state of the alliance today?
Well, let me start off by saying my column this week for the New Age is actually on the state of health of the ANC. Because we have this spew of commentators and political people speaking about the impending death of the ANC. And these utterances are coming, as you would expect, from political opponents of the ANC who have not actually managed to breathe sufficient life into their own parties or political ambitions. These are not the utterances of the guardians of democracy. So it's a little bit disturbing when we hear COSATU and SACP speaking about ripping their identity and themselves away from an alliance which is so important. And the ANC, I don't hear any death rattles, I don't hear any death rattles for the ANC. I think it's strong. But I think we need to bear in mind that if it's going to be harmed, it's not going to be harmed by opposition forces outside of itself, because the collective hand of the opposition is rather weak and rather limp. And so I think the possible departure of SACP and COSATU could cause some damage. And I want to refer to words of wisdom that are beyond me, which is from an African idiom, which says, when there is no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot hurt you. So I would like to implore that the SACP and COSATU stand with the ANC, because I think if they don't, they're going to be serving the agenda and the interests of white monopoly capital and go against their very agenda. They need to be the pace setters, not the disruptors of radical economic transformation. And I think they can do this best within the ANC. I think their prospects of doing well outside the ambit of the ANC politically and ideologically are very limited as well.
But for the broader constituency, if we're talking about COSATU as a labour federation, for those they represent, and for the SACP occupying the left space, are they representing them within that tripartite alliance? Because many argue that we're seeing, or at least some have talked of, neoliberal policies that government has pushed through, and they were part of the alliance. Perhaps the SACP sits there as a left or the original occupiers of the left, but they haven't been able to influence that policy. So what do we make of that? Should they remain within the fold or leave? Because policy is policy and it doesn't seem they've had much influence.
Well, I think that they need to understand what is driving their agenda. And while I said I don't think the ANC is facing imminent death, or as Mamani says, the funeral is going to be in 2019, I do believe the ANC needs to look at its health and its longevity. And the same goes for SACP and COSATU. What do they stand for? What are the policies that they stand for right now? And to try and be trendy and use the language of our youth, I'm going to say I actually crave the SACP of Moses Katana. I crave the SACP of Chris Hani, and a COSATU that puts the workers first and foremost. And if you look at some of the things that they're marching for and who they're marching with, one has to wonder what is driving that agenda. So I think they need to reimagine themselves and go back to the parties of great leaders like Moses Katane and Chris Hani.
Back to the basics, as some say. Well, we now cross back to Mpumalanga, where political analyst Mbuso Tumbati is waiting there patiently to address us. Mbuso, a warm welcome to you. Now, we're speaking today about the state of the alliance. Now, there specifically in Mpumalanga, we've heard at least the SACP, they haven't seen eye to eye for the longest time with the ANC, especially the Secretary Bonagale Machuba. He's been very vocal. He's never minced his words on some of the issues plaguing the alliance. What are the dynamics there now?
Well, Mfundo, the SACP in this province has not pronounced on supporting any person. Of course, there have been differences. There were problems in the alliance since Premier Mabuza took over power as the head of government and the head of the ANC in the province. However, recently we've seen that there were efforts on the part of the ANC led by Mabuza to bring back unity, to have talks with the SACP and COSATU. We've seen also that few people, leaders of alliance partners such as COSATU and the SACP have been brought into government. Recently, Provincial Secretary of the SACP, Mr. Bonagale Machuba, was sworn in as an MPL of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature. That is somehow a sign of efforts on the part of Mr. Mabuza. However, we cannot rightly say there is indeed unity in the province. We cannot therefore say indeed the past is where it belongs in the past. I can assure you that there are still problems, there are still issues where the alliance partners are not seeing eye to eye. However, they say it's work in progress.
And then beyond this, Matthews Phosa's candidacy here. He started his campaign in earnest today. We saw. What do you make there? Has he alienated himself to some extent when he spoke about the SACP constantly threatening? So it's not perhaps a message of unity?
Well, Mfundo, the issue of unity is top of the ANC provincial leadership agenda in the province. However, like I said earlier, we cannot guarantee that this unity is indeed working for everyone. There are those with reservations, especially because the unit project is not unbundled, is not unpacked. People are not really aware or sure of what is entailed in this project. So you will have people from various quarters, various fronts talking about questioning this unity project of the ANC in the province. Therefore, it suits Mr. Phosa to question that as well. He may as well say he is right in questioning that, because there are those others like him who have questioned it.
Thank you very much, Mbuso, for that. We'll certainly speak to you as we build up to this elective conference as days progress. Kim? An interesting conversation there, or analysis from him, talking about unity and this being a work in progress. Should it be unity at all costs?
Not at all, and I think that was a really interesting analysis. I was quite devastated to hear one of our presidential candidates, Matthew Phosa, last night on your show, speaking about radical economic transformation as radical economic looting, if I'm correct. And if there ever was a rallying point in the ANC for all its people and its alliance partners, it's around the agenda of radical economic transformation. So if we have people in such leadership positions speaking out of it or undermining it, as we would expect from Johan Rupert, who has spoken out about it, it's extremely tragic, actually. And I think that talk is very divisive. And one has to question why presidential candidates are actually sowing that level of disunity. This is a rallying point, radical economic transformation. I would expect the alliance partners, the presidential candidates, and the collective leadership of the ANC to rally fully behind that.
An interesting take, and unfortunately that's where we have to leave it this evening. Until tomorrow, have a good one.